This movie tells the story of a woman named Nelly, who's married to a wealthy businessman named Vittorio. From the outside, the marriage looks luxurious, but in reality, Nelly married him because she was forced to. Her family had a huge debt to Vittorio, and the marriage became the only way to pay it off. At midnight, while Vittorio is fast asleep, Nelly quietly packs her things and leaves the house. She's already planned to escape to France. Because it's already late at night and the next flight is the following morning, Nelly chooses to stay at a hotel near the airport. Without Nelly realizing it, a hotel staff member recognizes her as Vittorio's wife. The staff member immediately reports that Nelly is at the hotel and intends to run away. At the hotel, one of the guests named Martin sees Vittorio injured and tries to help. Nelly uses the situation to escape from there. Again. Nelly then goes to meet Alex, her former boss, hoping to borrow money for the trip back to France. But before Nelly can explain everything, Vittorio suddenly shows up and causes a commotion. While still in Alex's office, Nelly sees a rare painting that's extremely expensive. In a state of panic and feeling cornered, Nelly desperately steals the painting and runs. As soon as he realizes the painting is missing, Alex immediately chases after Nelly. Nelly returns to the hotel where she stayed earlier. There, she asks Martin for help to buy the painting so she can have money to escape. Martin feels sorry seeing Nelly's situation, so he agrees to help and even drives her to the airport. On the way to the airport, Vittorio and Alex happen to see them and immediately start chasing. A pursuit happens, but Nelly and Martin eventually manage to get away and continue their trip.
Where is my note? Comment son tableau, c'est à lui?
When they arrive at the airport, Martin meets his friend Ribeiro, who works as a pilot. Because she doesn't have any money, Nelly promises she'll pay Ribeiro after they arrive in France. Meanwhile, Vittorio and Alex, who are still looking for Nelly, eventually meet Martin and ask where she is. Calmly, Martin says that Nelly has already boarded a plane to France. Hearing that, Vittorio immediately heads to the plane, but it's already too late because it has taken off. That makes Vittorio even angrier. Vittorio then goes home and contacts his men in France, telling them to wait at the airport and capture Nelly as soon as she arrives. On the other side, Martin is seen moving his belongings onto a boat. He's preparing to sail to the island where he lives. Just as he's about to leave, a woman named Janet appears, a photographer. Janet asks Martin to pose for a moment, then takes his picture before the trip begins. At night, Vittorio gets a call from his men in Paris. They report that they've checked all the planes arriving from Spain, but they didn't find Nelly there. At the same time, Martin has already arrived back at the island where he lives. He's very surprised when he finds out that Nelly is already on the island. Martin immediately asks how Nelly knew where he lives. Nelly explains that when she was about to fly, airport authorities detained her for carrying the painting. Because she didn't know where else to go, Nelly asked Ribeiro about Martin's address. Ribeiro then told her that Martin lives in the Caribbean islands and even asked his friend to take Nelly there. Hearing that story, Martin looks annoyed at Ribeiro for revealing his address. Nelly then tries to persuade Martin to take her to Santo Domingo by boat. She promises she'll pay a lot after she successfully sells the painting there. Martin refuses because the trip to Santo Domingo is very far. If they go with his boat, the journey could take about a week. Even so, Nelly doesn't give up and keeps trying to soften Martin's heart, even by helping carry his things. Not long after, Martin takes Nelly to his garden to pick some fruits and vegetables that will be cooked. Out of curiosity, Nelly asks how long Martin has lived on the island. Martin explains that he's been living there alone for 2 years. After finishing feeding his livestock, Martin tells Nelly to get ready because they're going on a trip. As they're about to leave, Nelly says she'll cook delicious food for Martin after they arrive in Santo Domingo. Martin instead makes it clear that he's only taking her to the town, not to Santo Domingo. Hearing that, Nelly panics and immediately runs away because she's afraid Vittorio will catch her if she goes back to town. However, Nellie is eventually caught again by Martin, put onto the boat and then locked in. Not running out of ideas, Nellie damages part of the boat, so their trip will fail. When Martin feels something is wrong and checks the boat, Nellie uses the chance to escape and swim back to the shore. That night, Martin, still angry, closes all the doors and doesn't allow Nellie to enter his house. The next day in town, Vittorio and Alex come to the airport carrying Nellie's photo to look for information about her. But the airport staff say they're busy and have never seen the woman in the photo. That answer makes Vittorio and Alex upset, and they cause a disturbance, which eventually leads to their arrest by airport officers. Sometime later, Ribeiro comes to the airport and sees Nellie's photo on the table. He immediately calls a photographer he knows, Janet. It turns out Janet has a lot of photos of Martin, although it's still unclear what her purpose is in collecting those photos. Meanwhile, on the island, Martin is fixing his tractor engine. He plans to build a raft out of bamboo and use that tractor engine to power it. On the other hand, Nellie, who has just woken up, is seen cleaning her expensive painting that was damaged by water when she swam earlier. Not long after, Martin starts cutting bamboo for his raft. At the same time, Nellie secretly tries to enter Martin's house. Inside, Nellie finds several surprising things. She sees a photo of Martin with his wife and also a newspaper article reporting about a successful perfume businessman named Martin. Nellie becomes even more confused about who Martin really is and why a successful businessman would choose to live alone on a remote island. Outside, after finishing gathering bamboo, Martin heads to the dock to pull up his net and get some fish for dinner. While Martin is off guard, Nellie suddenly goes inside and locks the door. She then quickly eats Martin's dinner because she's extremely hungry. But not long after, Nellie suddenly faints. Seeing that, Martin immediately panics, carries her into the house, and takes care of her. After waking up, Nellie apologizes for all her mistakes. Martin, seeing the change in Nellie's attitude, starts to soften, and their relationship becomes closer. The next morning, Nellie wakes up after hearing noise from outside the house. It turns out, Martin is dismantling the wooden boards of his house to finish the raft he's building. Nellie then asks if the raft is strong enough for the trip to Santo Domingo. Martin explains that the raft will probably only make it to the Guaira coast. From there, Nellie can continue the trip by plane to Santo Domingo. That answer disappoints Nellie, especially after what happened between them last night. Deep down, Nellie has actually started hoping they could live together because she's begun to fall in love with Martin. Not long after, a plane suddenly maneuvers above the island. It turns out to be Janet trying to take photos of them from the air. Martin immediately runs, hoping he can ask for help, but the plane is already too far away. Nellie, still feeling sad, then runs to the garden and rests in a small hut that Martin once built. Elsewhere, Martin's wife is seen with several of her employees when Janet arrives. It's revealed that Janet is actually a spy sent by Martin's wife to watch his whereabouts. That's why Janet has secretly been following him and taking photos of him all this time.
Miss Mark arrive.
Not long after, a businessman named Tagumi comes to demand Martin. Tagumi reminds him that Martin previously signed a contract, but the ordered perfume still hasn't been delivered. Tagumi threatens that if the money isn't returned, Martin could be jailed and fined $776,000.
$176,000.
Several days pass, and finally the raft Martin built is finished. When Nellie sees Martin getting ready, she immediately approaches him while shouting, asking why he would leave her alone on the island. Martin explains that he only wants to test the raft, not leave her behind. After reaching the shore, Martin asks if Nellie has read the letter he left on the table. It turns out the letter says that Martin is willing to take Nellie to Santo Domingo because the raft is ready. That afternoon, Nellie hears the phone ringing and quickly answers it. It turns out it's Martin calling. Nellie then asks why they didn't use that phone from the beginning to ask for help. Martin explains that the phone can only be used to communicate between the two houses. After that, Martin invites Nellie to have dinner together. At first, Nellie refuses, but because Martin keeps persuading her, she finally agrees.
Hello.
Martin then catches a chicken and cooks it with great enthusiasm. That night, heavy rain falls, and Martin waits for Nellie impatiently. But after waiting for a long time, Nellie still doesn't come. Feeling upset and worried, Martin finally goes to see Nellie.
Oh, et vous?
Suddenly, Nellie sees a strange man and immediately screams. Martin, hearing the scream, quickly chases after him, and it turns out the man is one of Vittorio and Alex's henchmen.
Où est Nelly?
Not long after, Vittorio comes up to Nellie. He says that at first, it was very hard to find her. But after putting an announcement in the newspaper with a reward of $10,000 for anyone who found Nellie, the pilot who once took her to the island finally revealed the location. As they're about to leave the hut, Alex appears and immediately asks about his painting. Alex becomes very angry when he sees the expensive painting is already damaged, then immediately chases Nellie and demands compensation. Vittorio, annoyed, instead throws the painting. When Alex picks it up, he accidentally steps on it, making the damage even worse. That makes Alex even more furious at Nellie and Vittorio. On the other side, Martin manages to escape from Vittorio's men even though his stomach is stabbed. When Martin tries to return home, he instead finds that his house has already burned down. The next morning, Janet returns to the island intending to photograph Martin again. But when she arrives, she finds Martin lying there, covered in blood. Janet immediately takes him to the hospital. Several weeks later, Martin's condition starts to improve. Tagumi comes again to demand compensation and make sure Martin is imprisoned as he threatened. Before going to prison, Martin also officially divorces his wife. Tagumi even says Martin doesn't need to worry about his ex-wife because Tagumi himself intends to marry her. Several years later, Martin is finally released from prison. He immediately goes to Vittorio's house, convinced that by now, Vittorio and Nellie are married and living happily. But when he arrives, he doesn't find them. Not long after, Vittorio comes with another woman, and the woman is not Nellie. Vittorio explains that he did marry Nellie, but their marriage didn't last long. Martin then asks where he can find Nellie. Vittorio only says that maybe Nellie is living with her relative in Mexico. That night, Martin stays at the hotel where he first met Nellie. When he's about to book a room, the hotel clerk recognizes him and gives him a letter that Nellie left several months earlier. From the letter, Martin finally learns Nellie's address and immediately goes to see her. That afternoon, Nellie is seen working when Martin suddenly appears in front of her. The meeting makes them very surprised and happy at the same time. In the end, they decide to get married and live their lives together.